Welcome to the Winning Sometimes Show, the show where Clint, Emiliano, and I talk about tech and games, but mostly we just fail to stick to any one topic consistently. So obviously we are near the holidays, and we hope everyone is having a great week and preparing for the holidays and getting through all of that. But before we really get into any holiday cheer, there's a few topics that we want to quickly discuss. One of them being the biggest current gaming topic, the game that all three of us are into and has everyone talking. It's obviously Astroneer, the game that we streamed last week, right? Right?
With an amazing UI.
Or I guess, yeah.
I have opinions. We could talk about that. We're actually talking about Cyberpunk, right?
Yeah. We're definitely talking about Cyberpunk. That's where we're starting.
Astroneer was just too hard to get used to. It wasn't intuitive. Okay.
No, I'll agree. The controls were not intuitive. Oh, it was gorgeous, though. I loved the color scheme, though.
Nice. Yeah.
So if you're into visuals and you can kind of like, I feel like it's one of those games you have to dedicate a few hours to really getting used to it. Because by the time we were done, I was like, I kind of understood what we were doing, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Cyberpunk.
Yeah, Cyberpunk, right? So obviously Cyberpunk came out, and it was for the longest time. It was delays for the longest time, but there was so much hype about it and everything. And I know I, for one, really wanted to get into it and really wanted to, but didn't. Did any of y'all pick up Cyberpunk?
Yes. I actually think I'm the only person that did among us three. So
what are you thinking?
So I got it on PC. Here's
Smart.
the thing. I knew it was announced back in 2012 or 2013, whenever they brought it out. I have by and large not allowed myself to get hyped for this game. Well, first of all, I didn't play Witcher. Like Witcher 3 I didn't get super into. I didn't play that until last year, actually. And that's because I played The Witcher 1 when it first came out in like 2009. And, it was really cool. They were a really new studio back then, or at least it seemed like it. They even shipped out like this little lore booklet with the game to like get you into the world of Rivia, or not Rivia. I can't remember
Wherever
the name.
it is.
The world of Witcher, and it was so different. Like the whole European, like folklore style magic, and where things are so much more subtle than like big giant wizard battles and stuff like that. Like that wasn't a thing. It was so much more like down to earth and medieval feeling. Because like regular wizards aren't really medieval feeling. They're just like fantasy, like overblown fantasy. Anyway, Witcher had such a terrible control scheme, and it killed it so horribly for me because I played it right at launch. Like I got the pre-order because I heard about it. I think I read something in Game Informer. I was like just out of high school, and so like I had just gotten a job, and it was like finally starting to spend more money on games because that's not something I was able to do as a kid. And it just killed it for me. Like I could not. Like I gave it as like a month. I tried and it killed it. So when the other two came out and then it became really, really popular, it was beyond. Like I couldn't get into it.
How was the UI of Witcher 1?
It was terse. It was pretty bad. It was a developer's brainchild for sure. But I was pretty tolerant of bad systems as a kid, so I don't know.
What happened to you, Crack? Where did you go wrong with your
No,
UI
I'm still
hate?
tolerant of bad systems if okay, I'm not talking about Monster Hunter again. When Cyberpunk was released, so like I don't have any of that backstory. I don't have any of that like investment in the developer as everyone else did, as much as everyone else. And so it was a cool idea. Like steampunk's a cool idea. I like the 80s kind of retro futuristic kind of like idea or world. So I was like, cool, that's cool. I'll keep tabs on that. Maybe that'll be cool. And then, people were releasing more and more. I've just been so busy with Destiny, not to be honest, like the last 6-7 years. I didn't care about that much more. I mean, it's not strictly true, but I always had something to play. So it's not like I needed to look for something else to really put all my eggs, another basket to put my eggs in. So Cyberpunk last year, I watched the E3 trailer and I was like, wow, this could be really good. Didn't pre-order it. Wasn't planning on, like, I don't know. I'm kind of learning not to pre-order things. Bioshock or not Bioshock.
Mass Effect Andromeda.
And there's another game that I can't think of right now that was like, it wasn't Destiny 2. Like, I played the crap out of that, and I pre-ordered it.
Ugh.
But there was one game that in recent memory that I absolutely like killed pre-orders for me. Oh, Fallout.
No Man's Sky.
76 or Fallout 4?
Fallout 76.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Fallout 76 was like, I'm done pre-ordering. So
I didn't know you played that.
I didn't pre-order it. I did. Apparently, it's pretty good now. And I follow Fallout lore on subreddit on Reddit. The Fallout lore subreddit. I'm outing myself as how much of a nerd I am, but there's plenty of things that are getting developed still in the Fallout universe, and that's cool. But I'm not gonna play the game. Like, I'm not. So I didn't pre-order it. I saw like one of my best friends' Steam status pop up on the day before. I was like, wait, how is he playing it right now? It's not released yet. The day before it came out, and I messaged him and he's like, yeah, they released it early. I was like, oh crap. So I went and bought it and played it. I've had nothing but an amazing time. Cyberpunk is so good. And that's absolutely my experience.
You heard it here,
we
folks.
have more to unpack
Cyberpunk,
with this.
awesome.
Yes. For me, I have put, I am absolutely going to stop here. 65 hours so far, and about 5 hours is just leaving it in menu while I'm doing something else. So about 60 hours of gameplay in the last week. And that is no mistake. I don't actually think that's possible. I mean, I've been working full time this entire time.
It's possible.
I've been putting a good 6 hours. Has it been 10 days? Yeah, it's been almost 10 days. Okay, so I've been putting about 5 to 7 hours a day. And I've also been staying up really late. Like, I think last weekend, I definitely stayed up till like 4 a.m. every week, every night except for Sunday night. Yeah, it's been, I've lost so much sleep. And then I had a big day, like a big week at work where I was up really late. So I am like in freaking rubble, right? I am in shambles right now. I have like no sleep. I just started a huge vacation. I'm now off for the rest of the year, so like, I don't know. I'm gonna probably die playing Cyberpunk. But yeah, I'm having a good time, and I get that not everyone is. Like, I have a pretty beefy old like 10 series. I have a 1080 Ti graphics card and a i7 9000 series CPU. So without getting too much into it, it's okay. It's not the best, but it plays it at a solid 60 FPS, and that's more than we can say for the consoles. So
yeah, like I recently got an Xbox Series X, so it's, for me, it's been amazing. I don't have a gaming PC, so the jump from the Xbox One to the Series X is like mind blowing. But I hear this is what you PC people see all the time: the load times, the graphics, the field of view. Like, at this point, my field of view is maxed out wherever I can do it. Vermintide 2 just recently got an update, and it's beautiful. FOV
that's
at
awesome.
95, I think, is their max.
Nice.
So I was looking at reviews for consoles, and it was funny because prior to release, the only visuals you saw were PC visuals. You know, And then on the day of, you're looking at these console streams, and they look horrible. Like pop in spot, like there's like no crowds, just ugly textures. And like the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X were better, but they weren't great. So for me, like and then I heard that the update for the next gen isn't going to happen until next year. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to wait because I got a bunch of games I'm playing right now, and plus I just spent like, 500 bones on this Series X, and I'm thinking about buying the Destiny raid jacket, which is another like $200. So I don't know. Are you going to get
like
that now, by the way?
$270.
No, it's 180. It's 180.
You
It's
get
180.
it. It's 180. Oh, maybe it's whatever. I will get it if you get it so that we can match. Then I'll get it.
I'm thinking about it. We, as a bonus surprise for our holidays, our laundry washer busted, so we had to fork out money for that. So that kind of put a little dent in our Christmas spending, So I'm trying to finagle the resources and my life coach, aka my wife, to see if it's okay to order it, but I don't know.
That makes sense.
And I'm hopeful. I'm hoping. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
I was so I have like the old school Xbox One S, not the Series S, to be clear. But I have a very similar computer rig to Crack, or to Clint, whoever he is. And so I was really concerned because like on day one when CD Projekt Red, when Cyberpunk was coming out, I was like reading on like the subreddit and all that sort of stuff. People are like, my 3080 is like about to catch on fire and like all sorts of stuff. And so I was really scared because I was, I'm with you, Clint. Like I didn't play Witcher or anything like that, any of the Witchers. So I don't even have your experience from Witcher 1. And so I had very little hype, except, and I don't know if a whole lot of people know this, but the game itself is actually based off of a tabletop game. There's a Cyberpunk tabletop game that is the same sort of deal where you mind hack and do all sorts of stuff. And I had played that RPG before. And I really, really enjoyed it because and this is one of the things I loved in the rule book, like in the core rule book. And for those of you who are RPG nerds out there, you're going to, you understand what I'm talking about and say the core rule book. But like this 200-page book, like on page like 7 or something like that, it straight up says like style is more important than substance. If you don't know the rules, it's not that big a deal. Just be cool in the game. And so I was like, this is my kind of game. Like you have to be cool. But I'm with you, Ronan. Like I saw how poor the performance was on that day one and everything like that. And I know it has improved over the past week and everything like that. But I am firmly in the camp of I'm going to wait, 3 months, 6 months, whatever, catch it on sale maybe, and then get into it because I would pull my hair out if like I got it, paid full price, and my game kept crashing or something like that. So,
right.
Yeah.
So here's what I'll say though. The first night that I played, I spent the entire time tuning the settings. Like literally for like 4 hours. I was like messing with things. I was looking it up and I was looking at forums, seeing all the hate and salt, and then I was looking at actual tech, like people who are like, oh, well, this seems to help more. This seems to help more. The mistake I made though was that I was using the first scene where you can control your guy as the benchmark, which was a bad idea because he was standing in front of a mirror. And the mirrors in that game actually they render a copy of you in the mirror, which is double the cost. So I was doing all this tuning. I was pushing it down to low, and I was like turning off a bunch of features to try and get a solid 50-something FPS. And then the first thing he does after I'm like, okay, I'm done tuning, I'm going to start playing now. He turns away from the mirror, and the FPS jumps up to 120. And then they start talking, and then, yeah. It was hilarious. And since then, I've figured out like I can play with the 1080 Ti I have and the 9700K i7 that I have. I can play consistently between 70 to 90 frames. Sometimes it dips down to 60, but it's never like a broken 60. You know what I mean? There's like not a lot of stuttering. There's not a lot of hitches or like pauses or freezes. I can play that constant rate pretty well throughout the entire game with pretty much everything turned up to high except for some key settings. So if you're on the fence about it and you're worried about it breaking, I would worry more. I would at least look at the feedback and the things that you've seen about the bugs and the game crashes and the save corruption. Like that's what you should focus on if you're worried about it blowing up your game for PC. Now, if anybody doesn't know what's going on with Cyberpunk, this game's been in development for eight years, and when they released it, it's tough on everyone's systems, but regular last-gen consoles, PS4 and Xbox One, it's literally unplayable. Like, not only are there game-breaking bugs and scenes and cutscenes aren't working well, and like scripted sequences are broken, and they either die because there's a physics bug, or their guy falls through the world or something like that. Like that's absolutely unacceptable, and it only happens it happens way more in the console versions. But there's also the performance issue, which is PS4 and Xbox One play the game at around an average of 15 frames per second, which is unplayable. There's plenty of videos out there, but I really like Digital Foundry's YouTube channel. Digital Foundry's like a game and hardware review channel, and they actually go through an in-depth analysis where they test and count frames for each of the different platforms. They're like, okay, what happens if you turn the settings on for these things, and what happens, how is Xbox Series X compared to Xbox One, or One X compared to Xbox Series X? Like, the last gen, the Pro console.
Is that something we would be able to link out in like the description or whatever we have?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've saved them all because they're really interesting to watch, and I was hooked on all of them for the first week. Because they continue to, I think they actually have a video. Is it even playable on PS4 and Xbox One? And I think I actually haven't watched that one because I had watched a bunch of them. But 15 frames a second is just not. It's not enough.
I disagree. I've been playing on console for a long time, and you get used to 15 frames a second if you want to play the dang game.
No. I'm
just saying.
Okay. We're about to have a beef. No, 15 frames is very low.
It is.
So,
very, very low.
Like
30 frames?
Celluloid film, like movie film, is at 24 frames per second, and that is choppy. Most consoles, like my Xbox, One or whatever, runs at 30. And so
it says 30, but you're dipping well below that on regularly. The Xbox One does not run at 30
What
frames per
are
second
you
in
playing?
most games. I'm just saying that it dips. It dips so much. Look at Digital Foundry. They have some videos and stuff on performance, and a lot of times you're well below 30. So
let's just say then it's proceed at your own risk.
Yeah.
There's certainly like, I forget, there was one. Never mind. I was going to talk about like videography in old frame technology, but I don't remember enough to actually present. But proceed at your own risk. There are parts of the game that are way more performant than others. Inside buildings is one of them. Whenever you're in a cutscene, I think is usually better. But when you actually, it's downtown at night. It's a huge city. It's not as big as GTA 5, but it is pretty dang huge. It's pretty well fleshed out. So if you're downtown, there's all kinds of lights. There's multiple levels. You can go upstairs and go up elevators and stuff like that. But you're driving downtown in your car and it's raining. Like, there's no way. Like, that's going to be a huge dip. And if you're going to be waiting to get to a place where you can actually play more smoothly. At least that's what I think. But yeah, otherwise, it's a pretty dang fine game. Like, I am pretty sick of open world games like Assassin's Creed and those Ubisoft type games where you have the towers that you unlock and it opens up new areas, and there's all these kinds of procedurally generated content to go do, like quests and collectibles and stuff like that. I hate that. Like, I'm so over that. But when a game does it right, and I think in this case Cyberpunk has done it right. Like, they have tightly integrated their writing team into the way the world gets developed and fleshed out. Like, another big criticism I've seen is that the AI in the game is just really stupid. So, like, if you go to any person on the street, they're just dumb as a plum. Like, which is pretty true. But that's a really high bar. Like, maybe I didn't follow all of the promises that CD Projekt Red made with Cyberpunk. So maybe I'm a little bit more lenient on them for that. But I think that's one of the ones is like, oh, well, everyone's going to have their own set schedule and they're going to be their own fleshed out people. I don't know. But without those expectations, I'm really enjoying the game. Like, I wouldn't expect everyone to have fully fleshed out lives and, like, in a city of what was like 3 million people. I'm not expecting that game developers are going to pick out one NPC walking on the street and then have, like, you know, a gigabyte of data on what they do,
right,
who they are, what their lives like. Like, that's just not economical in terms of.
I mean, it's not a No Man's Sky level of lies.
Oh, for sure. So, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It works. It works. The systems are there. They might need tweaking, but from what I've seen, it looks amazing. Just not on console.
So, I will actually, because again, I think maybe I had more hype for this game than y'all did, which is my own fault. I'm not gonna blame y'all for that. But for me, like, what I have seen and my understanding of it is that this game is incredibly, like, when you take everything, the performance, the story, the gameplay, all that sort of stuff, it's incredibly slightly above average. That's kind of like the general gist I'm getting. That, like, oh yeah, it's kind of buggy. The performance isn't really great. But it has, good gameplay and it has good story and the interactions are cool and stuff like that. So it's like an average game where I think a lot of people are upset, and I think I would fall into this camp if I picked it up right now, because I did follow the game pretty heavily in development. There's just a lot of stuff that's missing from it. Like, for me, one of the biggest things that I'm upset about that I've heard is not in the game is how CD Projekt Red had talked about there was going to be, like, factions, and there was, like, because there's, like, all the different gangs and everything like that in Night City, and depending on what missions you run and things like that, you would gain reputation with certain factions, and they would treat you differently, similar to, like, how in Fallout 3, if you were, that's, like, the last Fallout I played. If you were a goody two-shoes or whatever, you would be attacked on site by certain factions and things like that. And from my understanding, that's been completely cut from the game. And so there's a lot of things like that, a lot of systems that are not present in the game. And so I think a lot of people who looked at the promises and things like that and looked at, like, when the first delay came out, when they said, oh, we're not going to meet, like, the January deadline, or whatever they said, January 2020, they actually said in the statement, the game is complete and playable, and, we're just going to put some polishing on it and things like that, which there's no way that game was complete and playable back in, like, January or something like that. And so I think that there's a lot of trust, I guess, that has been broken, saying, like, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this, and they deliver on, like, 30% of it, and it's still kind of buggy and not fully optimized and things like that. And so what is objectively probably a pretty decent game is getting lambasted because of all the promises that had been made previously. And so I think, I know for me, that would be like hugely upsetting. Like I would be really upset about that because, like in Crack, maybe you can talk about this or whatever. When you're hacking into people and stuff like that, and when you are investigating, like rewinding in time and all sorts of stuff, like those are actually huge parts of the role-playing game that they promised were going to be in there and were going to be in-depth systems. And from what I've heard, it's all been like very surface level kind of stuff. Like it's in there, but it doesn't really make a difference. It's not really a big deal. The talent trees are there and they're big, but they don't do anything, stuff like that. So hype, I mean, it was never going to live up to the hype, but I feel like CD Projekt Red was part of that hype machine. Like they tried to hype it up as much as possible, and so they set themselves up for failure. So, and I'm talking about like management, leadership, CEO kind of people. I don't have a lot of sympathy for them. I feel terrible for the devs, like the individual ground floor guys who made the game. I feel bad that something they poured 8 years of their lives into is getting absolutely roasted. But I think it's a big, like, in the gaming industry, I think that's unfortunately pretty common where top level management are the people who are the game up and like just really overselling things and telling the devs like, hey, we set a deadline, you make it happen. So I don't know. Maybe
Right.
that's just me being cynical, but I don't know.
No, I mean, there's a history of like AAA games being released kind of in a broken state and then fixed as it goes. I mean, Destiny 2, I feel, was kind of in that boat. Marvel Avengers is a new one that's kind of the same. Division 2 was that way. Fallout, like you said, Fallout 76. Monster Hunter wasn't, by the way. But there have been a bunch of games that are broken or in a busted state at launch. And I agree, yeah. The devs try their best, but the top guys say we need it by this date. And there go their bonuses if they don't get a 91 Metacritic. So
yeah,
They did actually walk that part back though, thankfully, about the Metacritic part. So
they did.
they don't seem to be terrible, soulless, and I don't know. I can't think of another bad adjective, but they don't seem to be terrible people.
Well, I think they are at least aware of their public image. Like they're still gonna like squeeze everybody for every red cent they can get, but they're aware of how that looks, and they're like, oh well, let's walk this back so we can still be good guy CD Projekt Red.
Red cent, is that why their name is Project Red?
I think it has to do with like the bird
Moving on.
is red.
Yeah.
Speaking of red herrings,
that
wait,
sounds like, the way you put it, it makes it sound like it's almost like a Peter Molyneux fable situation. Where, I mean, this is a complete throwback, and I wasn't actually around and in the news sphere when it happened, because I was young. But Peter Molyneux was promising a lot of these same types of systems where it's like, oh, well, NPC villagers, non-player character, for anyone that's not familiar, characters will have growing hair, and they'll get older, and your character will get older, and you'll, if you eat too much, then you get fat. And it's like these really like realistic, like living world kind of classifiers. It's like things you would expect in the living world made into a video game. And that's really kind of a huge sell. And so that's like, if anybody promises that to you in a video game in the future, don't pre-order it. Wait till it comes out first. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess I can sympathize with the people that really followed the development and really hung on to all of these promises that they were making. I can't say I've always been like that, but in the last like 5-6 years, I've completely kind of detached myself from those types of promises, and I finally stopped pre-ordering, just because, like, we get what we get. We should get things that are good, and we don't know that they're good. I guess no. The reason I stopped pre-ordering, I think, is really because I found out that pre-orders go into the pockets of the game developers before the game is released. So it's an early income, like early revenue stream. And if you are getting paid up front for a product that you're supposed to be making, that's like a conflict of interest. It's like the point is to make money, right? And you've already made this money. So what incentive do you have to actually deliver the product you promised? If it's not illegal and you have no contractual obligation, there's no legal risk, then as a company, it doesn't make sense to put the original amount of investment in your product that you planned because you don't have to. You already got that money. So like for pre-orders like that, absolutely not. Like, no, you can't have my money yet. It's not voting with your wallet because...
Wait, hold on. Why did you go to Peter Molyneux and not Sean Murray? Like, Sean Murray's like so much more relevant than Peter Molyneux. Like that's
true.
From
That's
way
true.
back
I don't
in
know.
the
I guess because I loved Fable. No Man's Sky, I played for a good 30 hours and then gave up on it forever. And I'm never going back. Like, it was such a hollow experience.
It won best continuing game of the year this year.
Oh, really?
They've done a lot to it.
So, story?
It's totally.
Do they have story? Is there anything worth actually discovering anymore?
There's multiplayer now.
Okay.
There's I don't know about this. Is there story? I don't know
if
they've added.
No idea.
They added the sandworms finally.
Sure. No Man's Sky never had a game loop. It was, there's this big world, go explore. And then once you learn what there is to explore, which is all samey, it's like not, it wasn't very rich in terms of like experiences. There was no diversity. It was just we threw the stuff into a random number generator and threw it up there, and that's all you get. I guess I could have set a goal for myself because I generally can do sandbox games. Like I can set personal goals without direction from the developer and be like, I want this, and then I'll go do a bunch of stuff to make that happen in the game. Minecraft is a terrible addiction for me. No, I'm joking, but I played the shit out of Minecraft. But No Man's Sky just didn't have that for me. Like, I could have tried to go get try to buy the fleet or whatever the mothership or cruise ship or I don't even remember what it's called. But it was like they put that in with an update. At that point, I was already lost. But yeah, Fable was like I played that game with not even knowing there was a controversy, and it was such a fantastic game, and I will replay it every couple of years.
Fable was fun.
Since and everyone hated, 2 was really good, and everyone hated 3, but I still liked it. Point is, I really like that franchise, but it has pretty strong hate attached to it and controversy attached to it, the entire franchise, because of Peter Molyneux and his incapability to actually just shut up and stick to some base promises and then surprise people pleasantly afterwards.
So I have a question kind of tangenting off of that. So because I was never big into the Fable games, so this whole controversy is new to me. I didn't know about that. But apparently you're saying Fable has some stigma attached to it. Obviously, with the release of Fallout 76, Bethesda is pretty much a joke at this point. Everyone is, they have a stigma attached to them. CD Projekt Red was very much so like the golden boy of the gaming industry for the longest time. Do you think they're going to have, they do have a stigma attached to them now, but do you think that's going to last for a long time? Do you think they're actually going to be able to recover their image from this? Or is that something they're are they going to go the route of Bethesda now?
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be quite so bad as that. I'm not in the group of people that are transgressed, right? So I'm not I am enjoying the crap out of this game, and I probably will play it again once I get an RTX 3080. It's so good if you can play it. Fallout 76 is just bad, and it was bad when it came out. There is no redeeming part of that. It's not like, if you do these things, then you can get a good experience out of it. I'm sure there's people that would argue with me on the internet, but aren't there always? Emiliano?
Well, it works. When it works, it works. Cyberpunk. I know they've delisted it off of the PlayStation Store, and the Xbox has a warning on there now. And I've seen like Instagram posts or Twitter posts saying that stores have taken it off the shelves and say, if you want it, go speak with the tech person because they need to talk to you before you buy it, kind of thing. So this is definitely going to hurt them, I feel like, on the console side. But the developers, the company, maybe not so much management. It's a good company and they're good people and they make good products when given the time and the resources, which I don't feel like they were given for this. So there's going to be a hit for them, but like I'm probably going to buy it once it comes out on the Series X or the enhanced version of that. Maybe I'll wait a day or two to see the reviews on that and see how the performance. But I feel like they will be able to deliver that product because they'll have more time to do it. So I'm excited for it. I want to play it. Keanu Reeves is amazing. He's the best. He is the world's gift to everybody.
I don't know about that last part, but he's pretty freaking awesome.
You don't like Keanu
I love
Reeves?
Keanu Reeves, but like that's like you're basically saying we can. Never mind. Yeah, he's really great, and his character's really interesting so far. I've ironically haven't played more than the intro scene. The intro scene took 25 hours to get to because it gives you some open world time. And what do I do when I play open worlds? I spread out. So I beat all of the on-map missions, area missions. They call them gigs. It's like contract. You're a mercenary, so you can go do gigs. But I did all of them before I proceeded. So, so I didn't get to see him until like 25, 30 hours in. And now he's just, he's there in a bunch of, I don't want to say anything without spoiling it, but he is present don't. And he did way more lines than I expected him to. And I'm pretty excited to see what the rest of the story is about.
Like, I've heard they've integrated him so well into your world as you play. And I'm excited.
That's what I don't want to spoil. Because there's a reason why.
No.
There's a reason why.
I've spoiled myself.
Oh, did you?
And I feel bad, but I'm still going to play it. Yeah,
it's worth playing.
I know.
When you can play Cyberpunk, it's worth playing. That's like my takeaway for this. So it's playable, no. It's playable, Matt.
Did anyone play System Shock 2 by any, or System Shock 1 and 2 by any chance?
I didn't, but I've been chastised for not playing it before by fans.
Have you know?
Yeah.
I am not familiar with that game at all. I'm really not sure what you're talking about.
It's an old game, so, and I'm an old guy, but because I was going to ask you if it's related to Cyberpunk at all, because it has a lot of those elements in it. But I'll look. If you haven't played it, it's old. I recommend playing it if you can.
So,
but it has those elements of like hacking and like it's really good, really good.
So and not to get like I don't know what you want to call it. Like, it's not philosophical, but like historical on like the cyberpunk movement or whatever, anything like that. The cyberpunk as a genre, I guess, has been around for a while. And so there's been a lot of, I don't know what you want to call it, like
prior
iterations.
Material.
Like what's that?
Prior material.
Yeah, absolutely. Like books and games and movies and all sorts of stuff. What Cyberpunk 2077 came out of, or what it mostly came out of, is the role-playing game I was talking about previously. So that role-playing game is not super old. I want to say the Cyberpunk role-playing game is only like 12 or 13 years old. So if System Shock is an older game, I highly doubt they're related. If anything,
I thought it was older.
The Cyberpunk RPG, I don't think so. Or maybe the version I play is only that old. I don't know. Let me see.
System Shock 1 is early 90s, I think. It was definitely the CD era.
Yeah. So the version that I play apparently came out in 2005. The first edition came out in 1988, according to Google. So
Yeah.
I'm sure someone will correct me on
Pretty
that.
sure it's
but
older.
Oh, for the Cyberpunk RPG?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So and System Shock came out in the 90s. So I'm pretty sure it's around then. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, it's a tough situation in all around. I think it's worth it if you're in the realm of people who can afford a PC or already have one, I guess, because the new cards are so rare right now. But yeah, it's tough.
So one thing I did want to touch on about Cyberpunk with the delays, we've kind of mentioned that before, with the holidays coming up. So, and actually, this is kind of a more pointed question than I thought it was going to be, but should it have been delayed? Like, I know they wanted to get out for, like, Christmas and everything like that, but should it have been delayed?
Yes.
Selfishly, I say no because I wouldn't get to play it right now. Like, I was telling my wife, like, yesterday, because it was the first day I was off, and I woke up at, like, 11:30 because I stayed up till 5 a.m. because it was like, woo, I'm out. Like, school's out for the year. And I was just telling her, like, man, I didn't plan to take this time off for Cyberpunk, but I'm so happy that I have this giant chunk of time to dedicate to whatever the heck I want, and I'm gonna put it towards Cyberpunk. Like, but like that's a pickle, right? It should have been delayed for the earlier console versions, and they should have released the next generation console versions. And that I would be surprised if that was in their agreement with Microsoft, because they didn't have a marketing agreement with Sony, but they did with Microsoft. They even have like a branded Cyberpunk Xbox One console that they released that can't play the game at the right frame rates, right? So they should have delayed it for that, but then, like, would that mean that they should delay PC? And if they don't delay PC and they split them, would they lose revenue? Like, they wouldn't get everyone on the same Cyberpunk boat at the same time, because, like, optics are a thing. If you release a game, everyone's going to see it and Let's Players are going to play it. And a second round of releases aren't going to get the same oomph. But at the same time, they're targeting those console players because there's a completely different market for console players than there are for PC players. So, like, they would absolutely lose, like, sales efficiency if they did that.
Well, they're losing sales now because they're having to refund all these console
Honestly,
people.
I doubt that they are as much as they would have lost if they split, right? Because right now, like, Sony completely delisted it and they're not giving refunds because their policy is...
No, they...
Wait, are they?
Are you sure? I thought they were. I thought they went and said yes, they were giving refunds. But
they're giving
Maybe
refunds.
You're right.
Okay.
Yes.
I wonder how many people are actually
They're all giving
taking those
refunds.
refunds. But Sony,
well, I've seen complaints of people complaining that they got a refund and now they can't play the game. And you're like, you know what a refund means, right? So, anyway.
Don't forget that people on the internet don't have to be like 16, 18, people that begin to have rational thoughts. That's
true.
Not that kids are stupid, because they're really, really not.
There's actually a whole subreddit dedicated to that.
What, smart kids?
No, kids are
kids are
stupid is the subreddit.
Oh, sure.
It's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, well, some of them are. Contradicting myself immediately. No, I mean, what I was going to say is digital refunds are not a thing. Like, every digital marketplace out there right now has made it a point to kill refunds as much as they can. Some are good.
They're
right?
giving, like, Sony and Microsoft have both stated they are carte blanche. If you bought it on an older console, they'll give you a refund. So
Man,
they've actually stated that.
that's
Crazy.
that's a pretty big deal.
It's that bad.
Yeah.
It's that bad that
Mhm.
they're giving their money back because of how poorly it does on consoles.
I would love to see. Well, I'd love to see a documentary on this, but I would love to see the numbers on how many last gen console players bought it and how many are trying to get refunds. And then the documentary is just I wish I could see a no clip documentary where they can go talk to like all the devs that quit. I don't know if there are going to be devs that quit, but situations like these usually cause high turnover. So it'd be really cool to go see, really interesting to hear like what happened here. Like, because 8 years is way more time to develop a game than normal. Even for long games that are developed and so there had to have been like artistic scope creep where they keep on adding new systems and cooler things and like
Management keeps saying things out loud, that sort of stuff.
yeah.
Well,
yeah, like a documentary on the 8 years of development. And like there's the Andromeda kind of documentary breakdown thing about kind of how they ended up like spending like 6-7 years on the game, but only really the last 3 years were actually making the game because the first 4 years got tossed out.
Right.
But I would like to something like that. But like I feel like say 6 months from now, this game I believe will be a totally different and better experience than it is now across all platforms. So for me, like I kind of want to wait for that version of the game as opposed to now.
Well, let's
because I've heard there have been issues with the skill trees, with some skills not making sense or being worthless, or like I saw you talking on one of our discords about a particular skill that penalizes you with earning money.
Yeah. Panda flagged that.
Yeah.
It's a skill that automatically dismantles the junk that you pick up, but some of the junk is worth real money. Like most of the junk you pick up is like plastic bits and bobs and wrappers and crap like that. But sometimes you pick up jewelry that you can sell for almost $1,000 or Eurodollars is what they call it. And but if you have that perk, it automatically trashes it and it becomes one generic component, uncommon component. Like I get why it happened and it's unfortunate, but I have to respec to change that. And now I've got so many components, I don't need them anymore. So it's like, whoops.
Yep. So
Yeah,
I
you
just feel like 6 months from now,
yeah,
it's going to be a better experience.
I agree with you, Ronan.
And
100%.
I've heard complaints about some of
think
the
I have to,
endings
too.
too. So I don't know. That worries me a little bit. Like I've heard some of the endings aren't the good endings and don't do certain endings because they're crap. But I don't know specifics. So
Well, once I get there, I'll tell you about them.
Yeah. I will say, as while we're speaking of endings, as far as years go, yeah, this would be the way that the gaming year ends. Like this whole year has been ridiculous. So the most hyped game released in 2020 also going to be a train wreck. What a way to end the year.
Yeah,
it's true.
I'm sad for it because
Has there been a good game this year? Like Marvel Avengers was kind of been crap. This one, I mean, not that it's crap, but the state that it's in is questionable for some people. Has there been a game that's released this year that's been like a shining light?
Animal Crossing.
I don't know. I haven't played
Horizons.
Which one?
Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
No, I hear Hades has been good, but I haven't played.
Oh,
it
yeah,
myself.
I've heard that as well.
My doctor told me about that, and I was like, okay, I don't really usually play roguelikes, but apparently it's really amazing. No, there's more. Final Fantasy Remake came out. A lot of people like that. I didn't. I mean,
It was
I did
also
and I
kind of
didn't.
polarizing with the ending, especially for people who had played the first one. But overall, it's supposed to be a pretty good game.
Or had lived, breathed, and drank Final Fantasy VII for decades. But
I heard
man
that
yells at
game
cloud.
isn't necessarily. It's not really a remake, as more of like a reimagining. It seems like, especially with how it ended.
mm-hmm.
So I haven't played it yet, but I want to.
Yeah, but they've done they Metal Gear Solid it. Let's just say that. It's like there was a coherent story, and now we're talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake, so maybe we should save this for later. But they took a coherent, long running story, and said, "Let's remix this." But the problem is, anybody who's never played Final Fantasy VII before is totally left in the dust, and they like take all these characters that we know because we've watched and played this media, this IP for so long that we know these things, but anyone who doesn't is like, who is this person? Why are they cool? Who is this person? Why do we care? Oh, they died in the other one, but they're not dead now. What does it mean? They don't know. It's like a completely terrible narrative experience, and I am so salty because of that, but I did have fun playing it, so.
All right, so
that Sephiroth theme song, though.
So
I love that Sephiroth theme song.
It is spectacular. But to close us out,
Matt.
Your favorite game of the year, new game that is, favorite new game of the year, Ronin. What you got?
Oh God, I haven't played any new.
It's Genshin Impact. We both know it's
games.
Genshin Impact.
Oh, okay. You know what? I will say Genshin Impact. Just because I've had a lot of fun playing that. I haven't played it lately because now my Xbox Series X loads Destiny 2.
Hey, welcome back.
Faster than it loads Genshin Impact. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
That's awesome.
But I want to go back. Genshin Impact is getting a 1.2 release with some new characters and a whole new map. So I probably will go back to that eventually. But yeah, Genshin Impact is my vote.
What about you, Clint?
Favorite game of the year, new game of the year. That's a toss-up. Oh, geez, actually, you're gonna hate me. My wife hates it when I do this because I don't like to pick tops. Like I don't do a tier list or a top. No, I would do a tier list, but I wouldn't do a top 5, whatever, because it's like, oh well, I like these for these reasons and these other things for these other reasons. I will say Animal Crossing. Call of Duty Warzone, the juxtaposition there is great, and Cyberpunk probably. Like Cyberpunk is.
Ooh.
I mean, I didn't have expectations, so like there was none to be let down. But Cyberpunk is just, it hits the spot, and I guess that's my theme of 2020. My favorite games that are new are the ones that just hit the spot. Animal Crossing hit the spot. I dumped actually probably more than 90 hours in Animal Crossing, and I'm still playing. I just picked it up again like a month ago, and I'm on it every day. Warzone is like the best BR I've ever played, battle royale, that is, and it fixes all the issues with the other that I have with the other battle royales, and I played that from April. Like that was my nightly get on play with the guys game from April till Cyberpunk came out, really. Or Destiny, I guess. Destiny expansion. I played that for a while instead. And then Cyberpunk has been... I can just get in the world. I drive through the streets of Night City and get out, go stop a mugging. Like, I can roleplay in this game. It's not... like there's an established character, and I'm starting to go back into explaining it, not what my favorite games were, but it's enough where I can go in and I can vibe. Like I can get in there, feel the city, feel what's going on, feel the stories, because there is a lot of writing in that game, and I love that. So like there's a lot of small stories as well as the big story, and it just hits the spot.
Fair enough. For
what about
me,
you?
Yeah, for me, definitely going to be Animal Crossing, because I think that's the only new game I played this year.
I mean, win by default is not the best win, but yeah.
I liked it, though. I will say I definitely liked Animal Crossing. When you said, like, vibing or whatever, I guess that's what all the young kids are saying now. But 100%, yeah, it was cool to just chill out in Animal Crossing and try and collect all the fossils. That's what I mostly did, was donate stuff to the museum, because I'm like a scientist at heart, and so I was like, oh, I got to help Blathers. So, but yeah. it was a good game. Even if I had played other new games this year, it's probably still would have been Animal Crossing. That was really good.
Well, and it dropped at just the perfect time too.
Absolutely. It's like Nintendo knew.
I don't know. I played it for a little bit, and I just feel like it didn't grab me. It was like No Man's Sky for crack. Like what's the point? I don't understand. Anyway,
do you ever play Minecraft?
A creative mode to build stuff. The boys play it all the time. They're building houses. They're building contraptions.
Okay, but you never played survival.
So, I have not played survival.
We should do that. Winning sometimes Minecraft survival.
The server
playthrough, yeah.
Yep. Well, that's gonna wrap up the show for us today, and we do want to hear if y'all are listening to this and you disagree with our opinions on stuff. We do want to hear from you. You can find us on Twitch at Winning Sometimes Show. We have a YouTube channel, also same Winning Sometimes Show, and you can also visit our website at winningsometimes.com. Eventually, we will probably make a Twitter or something like that, so you can tweet at us, but that seems like a lot of work right now. So if you do want to tell us how awesome we are or how wrong our picks were for Game of the Year, you can email us at show@winningsometimes.com. So we do appreciate.
Work,
what's that?
If you tell us why we're wrong, you have to tell us why we're wrong.
Well, and I will need sources cited and things like that. You can't just opinions are not allowed. We need evidence-based reasoning here.
on art.
Absolutely.
Or feelings, yeah. Cool.
All right, guys, we do appreciate you tuning in and sticking through the whole show here, and we will be back probably after the first of the year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.